good friend, Tom Vecchio. What's up, Tom?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Seeing that the Braves game just got postponed, which isn't great for me, but you know what happens in baseball. We move on to later games or tomorrow.
Yeah, no. Well, why wasn't it great for you?
I have Drake Baldwin, their catching prospect, who's actually super hot at the plate. I have him as one of the legs of a hit parlay that I've been doing, him and Bo Bichette. So that leg is just void, and I'm just sitting here with Bo Bichette now solo.
That stinks, especially if you're so confident about Bo Bichette later on tonight. And watch, he's going to end up going over. So
yeah, it's just one hit from each, and get it close to even money. And now Bo Bichette is just, I don't even know what it was, minus 240 by himself.
Did you like anything in afternoon baseball today?
I was on Brendan Donovan and Jeremy Pena for, again, just one hit for each of them, just because that's what I've been doing recently. Though that was a loss, I am still 14-4 over the past 2 weeks on the hit parlays. I was on the over for the Astros game, and that's it.
Sean Michael loves 2 prop hit parlays. You've been doing a lot of those. I've seen them all over your social medias. Why have you decided to go that route?
It's just easier. You know, I was going through like the early season baseball, and you know, as we discussed last week, like there's a lot of variance when it comes to getting at least 2 total bases, which do give you good odds. You know, like a Bobby Witt giving you 2+ total bases is expected, and we're not going to get great odds from that, but you can get great odds on a 2+ total bases. You know, from Bo Bichette, I mean, I would have to double check what he is tonight, but let's just say it's at like minus 110 or minus 105. Like that in itself are good odds. He's a great hitter, but that means he needs to either have 2 hits or a double, which does require multiple things when like this is just like a path of least resistance where like just give me a hit. It doesn't, I don't care what kind of hit it is. I'm not worried about runners on base. I'm not worried about extra base hits. Just get a hit, and then that's half of it. And then the same thing for another player.
The parlays are growing on me a little bit, but we didn't give any of those out today. We'll start with your baseball play with Vasquez under 2.5 Ks. Good value plus 100. Why?
So 2.5 is obviously a really low number
really
for Randy Vasquez. And you look at some of his recent outings, and against the Angels, the Rockies, and the Pirates, he put up 5, 5, and 3. And you're like, all right, 5 and 5 and back-to-back. Well, when we look at the teams that he faced, those teams, the Angels and the Rockies, are second to last and last in the league when it comes to strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching at 26.3 and 26.9%. And then tonight he's going up against the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're coming at 19.6%, which is 25th in the league. So when we look at pitchers among, I'm not going to say qualified because he technically doesn't qualify as a pitcher, but pitchers with at least 40 innings pitched this year, he is the 3rd lowest at 11.7%. So he just had 2, I think we call objectively good outings with 5 and 5 strikeouts, and he's still at 11.7% strikeout rate, which is terrible. So he did that against a horrible team, which literally any pitcher can do because he's horrible at striking out hitters, and now he has a difficult matchup, and he's already bad to begin with. He can be knocked out in, you know, a couple innings just because he's giving up runs, and he's not a big strikeout pitcher. So under 2.5. It may be a sweat, but I like it.
Yeah, 2.5 is a wild ride, but I do know the Jays don't really strike out so much. The thing you also have going for you, the Padres have a lot of bullpen arms available. Their high leverage arms are pretty rested, so you could definitely see some of those guys coming in the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, their bats aren't doing anything as of late on this, what is this, 4 or 5 game losing streak that they're on at this point. But, you know, it was a pretty decent outing from Cease last night. And the fact that Chris Bassett, of all pitchers, is going 6 innings, 5 or 6 strikeouts, whatever he had last night against the Padres, their offense is just a disaster right now since they got swept by the Mariners over the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's 0 for 24 with runners in scoring position in this 4-game losing streak for the Padres.
Them and the Mets, like 2 teams that were cruising, and then the Angels swept the Dodgers. So we have like these 3 great teams, the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Mets. They all got, you know, worked over the weekend.
The funny thing is when you look at the futures odds on, let's just say, FanDuel, for example, the Mets still have the 3rd shortest odds behind the Dodgers and the Yankees to win the World Series. Granted, it dropped by $1. I saw plus 850, now seeing plus 950, but they're still ahead of the Phillies and Braves. If you were to look at social media, if you were to read the newspaper, you would think that the Mets are in the same place as the Colorado Rockies right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nature of obviously New York media. It's also the nature of we can say like what the offseason expectations that they have. Now, just to be clear, I have two futures involving the Mets. One of them is for the Dodgers to beat the Mets, direct outcome in the NLCS, and then the Mets to beat the Dodgers. So I have both sides of it. Mets to beat the Dodgers, Dodgers to beat the Mets. So I play both of them. If one of them happens, I come out net positive, at least on those bets.
What'd you get on that?
I can tell you in a second.
Around.
Yeah, I have them right here. It's Dodgers to beat the Mets at 10-1, Mets to beat the Dodgers at 16-1. So, like, this is, like, theoretically, it's the chalk outcome. Like, these are the two favorites, at least in the NL. At least that's what they were when I bet them. And based on signing Juan Soto and then the Dodgers getting Sasaki and, like, making all their moves as usual, it's like, this is what the chalk should be. And we're getting effectively at a price at 10-1 when the Dodgers, in theory, to win the NLCS or make it to the World Series, like, we're never getting them at a 10-1 price. Now, I may have to work around this as the season goes on, maybe work the Cubs into the mix somehow, because obviously they're amazing, but I do like where things are now.
I like the play. I like that you were getting 10-1 for a position on the Dodgers in some capacity, which is great. When it comes to today's slate, you only like the Vasquez play, but we do have some other games going on today that were kind of intriguing to me. Like, we see some of these guys who have, like, really good numbers. Let me just pull up some of these. There were some guys I wanted to mention to you. And now I am all over the place because today I've decided that, okay, so, like, someone like Ohtani tonight, 4 for 8 with a homer against Burns. Machado's got good numbers against Bogarts. Fernando Tatis Jr. has great numbers against Gossman. Sorry, I said Machado against Gossman, not Bogarts. That game is the game that you're clearly looking at with San Diego and Toronto. Were there any batters that did stand out in any way?
So, despite the fact that there are sirens going on in the background, because I live near a fire department.
Oh, I don't even hear them. You
will. You probably will at some point. But I don't believe in BVP, which is batter versus pitcher. I don't believe in that. So that's something if I look at, if I see something on Twitter and, like, people are bringing it up, I'll look at it, but it's not something I'm like, oh, I have to start my process up, because at the end of the day, like, if you take Bobby Witt or Ohtani or Judge or Vladdy or any of these amazing hitters, and we're going to look at them and be like, okay, he's 0 for 3 or 0 for 5. I want to know what the threshold is. Like, that's the always argument I have with people in terms of BVPs. Like, so he's 2 of 5. Okay, he's 5 of 10. Like, is 10 really a good sample size when it comes to baseball? Because striking out 10 hitters, so if the answer would be, so if Bobby Witt is, I would say maybe the best hitter in the league. If he's 0 of 10 against the pitcher, and then Bobby Witt goes up and gets hit the next time he faces him, is that because Bobby Witt's amazing, or is that just because the pitcher is bad?
Well, what do you look at?
So on a daily basis, I'll just look at the player splits on Fangraphs and Baseball Savant page. Essentially, like, those are the two key things that I look at, because I want players that have high exit velocity, good contact rates, low strikeout rates. And then I want pitchers that have low strikeout rates against the handedness of the hitter, so they're not at a spot to completely shut down. And I also like pitchers that pitch to contact, and we can look at something like BABIP, which is batting average of balls in play. So if they do get a hit, obviously there's something to do with the defense behind them. But if the ball's going to be in play, he's not striking out hitters. Now, granted, this is different when we have, like, Kyle Schwarber, who is awesome. He may strike out a lot, but he's obviously very good at what he does. And thus, when he does get a hit, it's probably for power.
See, people always ask for a lesson on this stuff. And now Tom just gave you a lesson on how to handicap hitters props, because I hate the market, but Tom's very good at it. So listen,
I know you hate it, but here's the thing. When, Brendan Donovan, who was on today for a hit for St. Louis, he went 0 for 4 today, right? He's still batting 320 something. You talk about pitcher props all the time. It's like, oh, if they, they lose whatever. You talk about batter props, like, you want nothing. Like, he can win you back that money tomorrow.
Absolutely. So it's great payouts.
I'll be on Brendan Donovan tomorrow, probably, just because he burned me today. And I'm like, I'm stubborn. I'm going to go back to it just because that's what I do.
What was it about Brendan Donovan again? Because now I'm going to post this.
It was just one hit. Like, I just need one hit from Donovan, one hit from Jeremy Pena. And the two of them were minus 104, minus 105, whatever is earlier today. And they both went 0 for today. Like, it happens. I'll probably be on them, maybe not tomorrow if they have travel days, but on Friday, like, sign me up.
Because they just shouldn't go 0 for 2 days in a row.
Good hitters shouldn't.
Interesting.
It's just like, now listen, there's obviously, like, there's no set in stone thing. Like, Jackson Chirino for the Brewers, he got a hit today or earlier today, but prior to that, he was like, maybe a hit last night, but prior to that, he was like 0 of 20. right? So it's not just like, oh, he went 0-5,
Sophomore
0-4, 0-4. I'm going to buy in. It's like, I have to like dig into it. Like, okay, is his bat speed low? Is he striking out more? Is he chasing pitches out of the zone? Like, there has to be something else that tells us the story, what's actually going on. But there are hitters I will be going back to almost on a regular basis. Bobby Witt, Corbin Carroll, whoever it might be. Like, they're not going to go 0-4 3 days in a row.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. And I was just thinking of Jackson Merrill when you said Jackson Chourio. But
listen, I have a bet on Jackson Merrill to lead the league in hits, and he started off on fire, and then he had the oblique injury, whatever, and then put him behind the 8 ball. Which now
that's also why I hate season-long player props.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing.
I'm a hater.
That's you just got to bet unders, but so that's not an over/under bet. That's just an outright winner. So last year I bet on
kind of though. It has to do with numbers.
But last year I bet on Bobby Witt to lead the league in hits at 19-1, which he ended up winning.
That's nice.
The year before that I bet on Matt Olson to lead the league in homers at 28-1, which I ended up winning. So I can take a loss this year because it happens. Jackson Merrill got off to a blazing start. He's now behind the 8
hit those back-to-back years is crazy.
Well, I've been doing shows for however many years at this point. Clock's going to be right, have broke clock, whatever, twice a day, something like that. So this year,
a blind squirrel could find a nut or something.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Okay, let's go to the NBA. Yeah. You like this over rebounds prop? Why?
So Nesmith surprisingly actually leads the Pacers in rebounds this postseason. It's not Siakam, it's not Turner. I like this. The fact that we're getting plus money on it.
Siakam has burned me on the rebound prop many times.
Not doing a whole lot. Now he did have a good series last time out versus the Cavs overall, but specific game to game, certainly some variance there. If I had to pick, I would say Knicks in 7, which isn't some like crazy take. It's kind of like the chalk outcome, but. Yeah. And again, my take for the series is like, oh, we're going to see a bunch of scoring early, and then that will subside as the series goes on again. Not some like groundbreaking take. People have probably heard that elsewhere, but I'm expecting some pace. So like when we look at rebound props, it's like, okay, are we expecting like a really tough defensive matchup, which means there's going to be a lot of missed shots, therefore rebounds, or are we just expecting a lot of scoring back and forth? Thus, there's a ton of possessions, and it can lead us to the rebounds. So I do like that tonight. I'm on the over as well, 222.5. I think it may have dropped by a point or whatever, but some scoring tonight. Maybe that changes as the series goes on, but Nesmith for some rebounds as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty high total. I saw the total earlier and couldn't believe my eyes, but it is the Pacers. They go at a very fast pace where it's just so contrary to the Knicks and how defensively focused of a team they are, but rebounds galore. Absolutely. Yeah. For somebody that used to work, I need an update too on your FanDuel. Like, are you still with FanDuel or is it just SportsGrid now? Okay. So you used to be with FanDuel.
Yeah.
And you're very obviously experienced in knowing how things work behind the scenes. And you also still are analyzing this stuff, of course, the day. The big news of the day was the Tush Push is still going to be alive and well this upcoming season. 22-10. The votes say the Tush Push will stay. How does this impact things with the Eagles?
It'll change. I haven't looked at season-long props for Hurts or Saquon, but it's like it's favorable for them. I'm a fan that the Tush Push was not banned, so I think it's good. I don't know what Hurts' prop last year was. I would have to say 9.5 or 10.5 for rushing, but it impacts that kind of stuff. Obviously, the prices for Hurts and Saquon are still going to be Saquon's still going to be minus 200, minus 250 every game, and Hurts is going to be minus 125. I would assume thereabouts on a regular game-to-game basis, which I think is a terrible price for him, and you shouldn't be laying money on TD props. That's just my personal opinion. But their scoring expectation is still going to be 3.5 touchdowns. Like their team total is still going to be sitting at 27.5. I would say in most games, and we're expecting a push. Hurts touchdown, Tush Push, Saquon rushing, Hurts passing. That's 3 touchdowns, and then they get a 4th from somewhere else.
Yeah, it's always that minus 120, minus 125 for Jalen Hurts on the Tush Push. Lamar Jackson, too, he's always like minus 110 to minus 120 range to score a touchdown. Josh Allen, same boat. The only way that I've seen people play it is that they parlay it with something like a money line. That's fine in theory. You expect, if Josh Allen is scoring touchdowns, they are probably winning the games. And you don't want to lay it'll be a situation like I could talk myself into it. It's like, okay, the Bills are minus 6.5 at home. It's like, that's an okay number, but they probably just win.
and Josh Allen scores, let's work with that, right? Instead of saying I want to lay the 6.5. So I do understand that.
So talk to me about the difference between, in your mind, where you're willing to parlay two different legs of baseball props for a hit as opposed to an anytime touchdown prop.
Yeah, well, it's just based on the probability of outcome. And just to be sure, I had it handy this time in terms of implied probability. So, like, if we're talking about Bo Bichette tonight, who I think was minus 300 or whatever for a hit, minus 300, we're talking about a 75% implied probability, right? Which is like very high. Like, okay, that should be happening. But if we look at a touchdown prop that's like plus 125, that's a 44.4% implied probability. So it is close to happen, but it's not as guaranteed or close to two hits. Now, obviously, I don't want to be laying 300 on one hit, but if we take two of them, we get close to even money, which is what I like to do. So just in terms of like the math working out, if you're going to be betting it at this rate, it has to be hitting at a certain rate. So if we're betting on touchdowns, it can't be hitting, 16, 17 games, or have they played now? I don't know at this point with bye weeks. But if they're only hitting 6 games, like that is less than 40%. So you can't be betting on a game-to-game basis at plus 125. The math just won't work out. You'll come out net negative, at least if you're betting on one player and how you track things, which is how I do it. But
the math's not mathing.
Yeah.
Simple.
And this is what I talk about when I talk about home run odds. So plus 200 is 33.3% implied probability. If you're betting on Aaron Judge or Ohtani, he's not hitting a home run in 33% of his games. He's not. So you're laying odds on something that's happening at a different rate than what the odds are suggesting.
Huh. See? That's a good way to make my brain work, because my brain doesn't feel like it was working much today. But I do like math. So thank you for the math lesson. People do need to know this stuff, because I don't think people pay enough attention to why certain bets are bad bets. But before I let you go, Sean Michael wants to know your thoughts on the Hurricanes beatdown last night. Are they doomed?
I think so. And it's like, this is where the Hurricanes have been the past few seasons, maybe not specifically last year, but over the course of the Rod Brind'Amour tenure of like them making it to the playoffs, making it to conference finals. They are a good team. Like, there's no doubt about it. Going to multiple conference finals, especially in hockey, is like super tough to do. They are a good team. A lot of people say they play a very boring style, which I don't agree with. I like the way that they play, but the Panthers are a great team, or they're an excellent team, or like they're excellent, and the Canes are like really, really good, but they just don't have all the pieces to stop the Panthers. And frankly, on a one-to-one basis, like you could be like, okay, the top lines match up, the defense match up, but at the end of the day, Bobrovsky is much, much better than Freddie Anderson. So if the forwards and the defense are somewhat equal, we're just going to side with the team that has the better goalie. And I expected the Panthers to win the series 4-2. So if we get the overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, as we did a couple of years ago when these teams played in the conference finals, like sometimes the coin will flip in the Canes side and maybe they do come out with a 4-3 series victory, but it's not going to be easy.
Who's your Stanley Cup finals, right? Finals. And then NBA finals. I'm like trying to make sure I'm saying this right. And NBA finals. What are your choices? I have a Dallas futures ticket at 7.5 to 1. So I'm rooting for Dallas. I would like to see Dallas, Florida. Dallas come away with a victory 4-2. If it got that far, that would be great. I just want to see, obviously, Dallas make it so then I can hedge out and know that I was somewhat right, months and months ago. And then I think it'll be Thunder Knicks. It'll be an absolute zoo at the Garden. Those tickets will be $5,700, as we talked about, last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. And I think the Thunder will come away with it. I do. I don't know if the Knicks have the depth, which was certainly a question for them in the Pacers series. Like, the Pacers have very good depth. Whew. Okay. It's going to be mayhem here in New York for a while. I am not ready for it, but I'm always ready for Tom Vecchio. Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show, and good luck with your bets tonight. Thanks for having me. Okay, our next guest is coming up in just a second. He's coming over from NHL.com. You've seen him on the show before. I haven't had any NHL on the show really this week, so that's completely my bad. I know you guys love it, but you guys want everything. You guys want the WNBA, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball. So I'm trying to just divvy it all up. So Troy Perlowitz from